What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Collider interview studio at TIFF 2024 at the Cinema Center, brought to you by Range Rover Sport. So excited to be covering a short film, The Yellow. First, I'll say huge congratulations on your film.
Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like in general, I'll get into this with you a little bit in terms of your work as an actor, but I feel like nobody pays enough attention to short films, and it's such a beautiful storytelling format that literally doesn't get as much credit because it's short, and I can't quite understand that.
My brother was visiting prior to me getting on the airplane, and he's never seen a short film before. And he said, I don't understand. How can I pay to go see them? And actually, I who have been in the business for many decades realized that that is probably true unless you're kind of in the business. You don't quite know how to access to seeing short films.
I find that very stressful.
Yeah.
And also, like, sometimes when I cover them, it can be challenging to get them distributed. And then you hear these wonderful things, and then there's like no place to access them after the fact. And I find that very frustrating.
We were with a producer last night that shared something that I thought was beautiful. She said, you should tell people that don't understand the value of short films that they're like short stories. And a collection of short stories can offer something that a novel is a very different kind of experience for.
I feel like now I'm going off on a real tangent here, but I was thinking about this because one of the movies that I was really excited about here is Life of Chuck, and it is one of Stephen King's short stories. And even with books, I feel like a full book gets way more attention than a short story. And again, it just like does not quite compute because both can be equally as powerful. Clearly, I know what your short is about. Our viewers might not know about it just yet. So would one of you mind giving a brief synopsis of The Yellow?
It's about two unhappy people who spark a magical moment and come together, and a little fantastical moment happens. It's a strange little story.
And then there's also a dog.
I almost got very stressed about that dog.
Yes, we were all a little stressed.
And then I didn't. So, Simone, I know you co-directed and co-wrote with Maika Monroe, who I'm a big fan of. She's been on Collider many a times. Can you tell me a little bit about how you first met and what the first thing you saw in her was that signaled to you she would be a good creative partner for me?
Well, I've known Maika since we were 16. So we grew up together and we're just best friends for a very long time. And we had always wanted to collaborate on something, and we never really knew what. And it wasn't until I found Samantha Hunt's book of short stories that I was just like, I want these women that Samantha writes to be on the screen. I just fell in love with them. They're very raw and wild women, and we need more of that represented on the screen. So I found the book and I gave it to Maika, and I was like, any one of these stories, like let's do it. And she came back with The Yellow, and we got in touch with Samantha and started adapting.
So many follow-up questions. One of my favorite things about an adaptation is that it's an opportunity to respect and celebrate the source material, but also find ways to evolve it. So I guess what space in her short story did you find that you thought you could bring your unique voice to?
So for Suzanne's character that Marin plays, we kept essentially her little bit exactly the same. I felt like it was really beautiful and impactful, and I didn't want to touch her character. I thought she was perfect as she was, but I felt like Roy, who was played by Haley Joel Osment, could be a little bit updated for the time. The original short story is about a little less than 10 years old. So Samantha and I were talking, and we felt like we could make him lonelier. In America, there's a crisis in loneliness right now. I think, especially in, boys and young men, that I think is really, really sad. And so we were tapping into that, and we felt Haley really embodied 90s nostalgia, and we felt like he was the right person to play the role.
All right, Marin, now to you with signing on for this. Again, like we were talking about before, I feel like there is this sense that You're very popular. I imagine you have many opportunities, and someone might be thinking, why carve out the time to do a short film? So what was it about this material that made you say, I need this kind of project in my life right now?
You know, in the last maybe decades, I've had a chance to work on a variety of roles that have had like a kind of cover that they present. We get to see in some episodes of whether it was Judith on 2.5 Men or whether I was Rose, we get to see moments of I call it like an underbelly, but I was very drawn to this piece because I feel like the rawness of a private space that someone has when the family's gone and you're alone in a house and maybe you're drinking or maybe you're dancing to the music that you've wanted to let loose to. And I was really, maybe in my own life, felt like I need a little bit of that let go. And honestly, I really want to work with young women. I really want to be there to support, to love, to guiding is not what I would say because I think I made a lot of mistakes in my career. So maybe I want to tell them to go a different direction than I went at times. But I really got incredibly drawn to both Simone and Maika and Samantha who wrote it. And I thought, and I've told them all three this, whatever they do from now on, whether I can hold a boom for them or play a tree, like I'm here energetically to help this generation kind of go. And I was so drawn to that. So it was a yes right away.
It makes me so happy.
Oh, thanks.
It's such an important thing because really someone with your platform eventually pulls someone else up and then you could pay it forward when you make more movies. And that's kind of how the cycle continues and how it gets stronger every single step of the way. Many questions about your collaborators. Sure. First, I'll start with the two of them, Simone and Maika. Why, from your perspective, did it feel like the right directing duo to lead you through this process? You know, I looked at this one's beautiful. She's an incredible photographer and really a visionary and a deep artistic soul. And I looked at her work and I certainly knew Maika's and I just knew that their taste in how they were going to present their direction was right on the same page. And when we only had 2 days. I think I was on set for 2 days. And every single moment they would kind of share their thoughts with one another. They were like little two peas in a pod, like two elves, two magical sprites. And they never had disagreement. Or if they did, it was like away from us. And it really just felt incredibly invigorating and soulful to have the way that they worked. And I kind of knew that from the second I talked to them. Now I obviously have to ask about working with Haley because, again,
he's a legend.
A raw role that you have to give a lot of yourself to. What is it about him as a scene partner that, makes you feel safe and also makes you feel like you could deliver your best work?
Haley, in a funny way, reminded me of Tony Shalhoub. And I'm going to say that because I say this about Tony. Every day Tony came to work over the 6 years I was with him, it was childlike because he was like, I can't believe I get to do this. And the expertise of all the years he's been doing it, he has no ego and no kind of hubris about that. And Haley was the same. It was the very childlike, how joyful he was at playing a role that's very, in despair. And I just felt like, again, their casting was extraordinary. It was a perfect merger. And we had to be pretty sexual. We had to have a very vulnerable, meat be covered in blood, if I'm allowed to say. And I guess I've just said it, little spoiler alert. But basically that kind of sexual openness was just about trust. I had it in a second.
I love that. I'm going to end with this question that I feel like could just come across as what is your favorite color? But because of your movie, it has made me think about how I respond to colors and how they make me feel. So can you tell me a specific color that you find inspiring you?
The yellow. Yeah. I love yellow. It's always been my favorite color, and I have a lot of clothing that's yellow. It's just my go-to. But I love all colors, honestly. I love green and blue. Also.
Glad you like green on the Collider set.
Yeah.
I want to know what yours is. Can we finish with yours?
I think about it all. This movie made me think about it a lot. Mine is red, and it brings me back to my Nana, who always used to say, red was a lucky color. So every time I see lots of red, I feel like something good is going to happen. Yeah.
My mom's is red too.
Think about that.
My mom's is red.
Red is very cinematic.
I grew up thinking I wanted to be eccentric, and for some reason, purple felt quite eccentric. So I guess I'm going to go with purple.
I like that.
Great color.
I like that. I will say I like your colors, but the yellow, keep an eye out for it, read up about it, and also you as a filmmaker that's emerging in this space. Marin, thank you for
Absolutely.
using your platform to boost voices that I want to hear more from. So huge congratulations. Thanks for sharing some of your experience with us.
Thanks for having us, Perri. Thank you.